What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Oak, back on track. This time we're in the Super Formula, and as you can see, this week we're at Sebring. Now, as we get into today's video, and I have two races for you in today's video, both will feature top 5 finishes. The second of which is going to be a finish for a podium position, potentially our first race win in the Super Formula class. But before we get into it, let's talk a bit about the fixed setup. It's bad. It definitely needs a bit of dialing in. For us, I would say the biggest area where we struggled with the fixed setup is going to be getting on the power. That may play into one of today's races. Let's find out. Thanks for tuning in. Let's find out right now. Now, as we get into the first race, I want to talk a little bit about why I think a lot of players do not like a track like Sebring compared to, say, not even, a legendary track like Spa, but really to that of others. I've heard now, particularly this week, about Sebring that a lot of players simply do not like the course whatsoever. So I want to first talk a little bit about why that is, in my opinion. I think the first thing that makes Sebring a very tough course is going to be the rough nature of it. I think just the fact that it is as bumpy as it is, coming through one of the fastest, or really one of the most important sections, now the hairpin, you've got to take a little bit of the grass in a car like, the Super Formula. There's just a lot of different sort of aspects of Sebring that are different from other courses that you may find on really any particular sort of road course calendar. But the first is just going to be the environment, that bumpiness, the amount of sort of dirt and curbs that you have to use, and where you can use those curbs. Coming through this last section of Le Mans, you kind of need to use the curb, but using the curb in any way incorrectly will result in a spin. As you see behind us, we do have somebody go for a bit of a spin behind us, but I just think for a lot of drivers it does add a couple different elements that you're having to factor in, or at least some drivers are factoring in, and I do think a lot of drivers just do not like something like that. Now, as for us, in our opinion on Sebring, I think the biggest thing about Sebring, outside of the bumps, because once you get past the bumps and sort of all the sections where it is really bumpy and you just kind of know it's coming, Sebring really comes down to this. It's really tough because there are some braking points where if you brake 5 meters later, you will lock up and you will end up into a wall. And if you brake 5 meters too early, you will lose, I don't know, maybe about 3 or 4 tenths, maybe a quarter of a second. Either way, you're losing time. So it's a very tough course in that nature. And then to add on to that, and I'm not sure what the official term of this would be, but there just are a lot of corners that are in some way blind, where either the entry or the exit of the corner is blind. And so that does make it a little harder to battle, especially just when you're trying to battle and trying to keep yourself oriented on a track like Sebring. Like even a section like this, coming up to that corner, you really can't see where it is until you're there. Another corner like here, you really can't see it until you're there, and then it's all there, right? So just that sort of disorienting nature of Sebring, both visually and physically, sort of through the force feedback, I think really are the reasons why a lot of people just do not like a place like Sebring. Even this last corner here at Lamaze, and this is really a great example of what I mean. That last corner at Lamaze, that last right-hander, you're turning in and you can't exactly see where the corner is. You know where you want to end up, but you're not really going to find out until you're just about there, right? So I think that's a big problem, or just a big part of a place like Sebring. Again, for someone like me, I enjoy a place like this. I think there's a lot of reward in being able to complete a session and being able to have a good session, a good race at a place like Sebring. And I think that that is a reason why it's one of the places where they go for, an endurance race when they do the 12 hours here. Now, as for where we are in the race, you'll see that we are going for that inside move coming through Sunset. Now, we do have the place, or at least the track position, but we are not done with defending. So we will take a bit of an inside line here coming through the first turn. That's going to mean he's going to have a pretty good run on us coming through turn 2, headed into turn number 3. Now, headed into turn 3, I truthfully, and ask me this, yes, I profiled him based off of the fact that he had a Red Bull livery, but I was just nervous that he was going to outbrake himself and run into me headed into 3, 4, and 5, and I just did not want to do that. So we ended up on the grass. Because of that decision, we did have to defend from P5 behind us. Now, at this point in the race, he had put in a faster lap time than us, but I still had a bit of time in hand. I think at this point, I think the fastest I'd ever gone at this point was somewhere in the 140s. So I definitely felt I had a bit of time left in hand. Now, as we move forward, we're going to have another look headed down into the hairpin, but he will cut us off a bit late. I thought this was right on the limit of really hard-nosed defense. Honestly, no harm, no foul, so we'll call it what it is. Either way, we now have to once again defend from P5 behind us, almost in a carbon copy of the last lap. As we're now about 16 minutes into the session, you'll see here that we have over 2 minutes left of deployment left over. That is going to be something that I wanted to mention from one session to the next, is the amount of deployment that we used in this first race simply was not enough. We should have been a lot more aggressive, especially in a shorter distance race, with using the deployment for things like staying attached to a pack or staying attached to a particular car, not even just the sort of conventional sort of overtaking opportunity, even though that is included as well. Now we fast forward only a couple minutes into the session now with just under 3 minutes left. You can see here that we're once again back on the deployment. We are going to go for an inside move. He'll squeeze us just a bit, but we will make the move stick as we head through Sunset back down the main street. We're going to leave the overtake on. And at this point in the race, we really had things under control, right? If you see up in the top left, we had just put in a time that was about a second faster than his particular fastest lap. So we were feeling confident that we would be able to put some rubber down and ultimately create some distance between the both of us. And as we come through Tower and through Bishop, you can see that we are starting to pull away just ever so slightly. Now headed into Lamaze, we were certainly pushing really as well as we could. We were in a good rhythm, but we saw the car ahead go wide, and just for a second, we did not focus on our turn in. And as you can see here on the left, we knew the mistake that we had made. We knew exactly what we had done, but at this point in the race, we had just gotten back our deployment after about 100 seconds wait time. So coming across the finish line now, headed into the last lap of the race, just a second behind, or excuse me, just half a second behind Monday. Monday shaving off half a second from his fastest lap time. That's certainly something that we'll have to consider as we come out of turn number 5. Headed down now towards the hairpin. We will turn on the overtake. This will be the last bit of overtake that we have left for the entire race. We're going to be on the inside here. He's going to squeeze us as well as he possibly can. He does a great job of getting on the power really quite soon. Props to him. I mean, he really jumped out of that corner. So we'll have to have another run as we head now down into Cunningham through Collier. You'll see he just gets on the power just a bit sooner than us. We did not want to get on the power. I wasn't quite sure where he was relative to our outside as we both actually drift through that corner, getting on the power just a bit too early, but I did not want to push him wide coming through Collier, and that seems to have cost us the position. Now we'll come through the last corner of Lamaze, but you see we get on the power just a little bit too early, and that, folks, is going to be this race done and dusted. We bent the rear against the frame, and so we're not even going to be able to roll the car. As you can see on the left, we are absolutely going through all 5, or is it 7 stages of grief. We're having them all. We're having them all, folks. This race, as I put it in the live stream, this race, folks, well, this race, this is the type of race that'll build some character. Now, let's head into race number 2. As for this second race, coming off the line here, starting now in P3, we do once again lose time to the field just because of that manual clutch start that we don't have bound quite yet. So we do have to make an overtake headed into turn number 3. Coming through 4, we'll have that overtake done, and as we come now out of 5, you'll see that we are still in that P3 with our eyes fully set on P2. We are going to make an overtake on P2 as we go throughout this race, And then what you'll see in this race, and this is why I'm not going to talk a ton, is we are really just putting in faster and faster laps as we try to chase down the guy who was in first place. So as we mentioned, the guy in second place makes a mistake coming through Lamaze, and props to him. Making a mistake coming over that first curb at Lamaze can usually spin the car, so props to him for not spinning the car. But we are going to go for just a bit of the old up and under, and we'll have the move done. Now as we come across the line in P2, we will continue to just try and set faster and faster lap times. Enjoy the audio. Now, at this point in the race, we had just set the fastest lap time, going well into the 39s with a 39.7. So as we fast forward now to the end of that next lap, you'll see that we have definitely arrived, right? We do set another fastest lap time as we were on the hunt, and we are certainly moving and grooving pretty good here. Coming into turn number 3 and through 4, you'll see that the guy in front does get a bit wide headed through 5, and honestly I thought he was going to spin the car right at that moment. I lifted, and when I saw that he did not spin the car, I did slam back on the power, and that caused me to make just a very slight mistake. And all of that work that I had just put in of putting in these very fast and consistent laps, running away from the field behind us, really has in a way gone to a bit of a waste. Now, we haven't given up on things. We still have about 3 minutes, or excuse me, about 5 minutes left in the session. So it is just a matter of putting our head back down and getting back on the gas as much as we possibly can coming through the last section of Le Mans here. So I'll once again shut up and let you guys enjoy the sounds. And as you guys can see here, this is going to be the final lap of the race, and we are just outside of striking distance. We will be deploying the overtake for the rest of the lap, but as you can see here, just a product of the mistakes that we made over the course of the race. And honestly, if we would have had a better start, where would we be by this point in the race, given the amount of pace that we've had over the course of the last few laps or so. Now, if you guys did enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. As for me, that's all the commentary I'm going to do for today. I'll let the rest of it run out. Thanks for watching.